This is a bullet. Or rather, it was a bullet, before it learned to do something impossible. For centuries, firearms had one problem. They screamed when they fired. Physics demanded it. Expanding gases, pressure waves, sound. Suppressors could muffle it, but never eliminate it. The laws of thermodynamics wouldn't allow it. Until 1983, when Soviet engineers asked a heretical question: what if we don't silence the gun? What if we teach the bullet to silence itself? This brass case contains one of the most elegant engineering solutions ever conceived. A mechanism so secret, Western intelligence didn't fully understand how it worked for nearly a decade. And once you understand it, you realize this wasn't just a weapon. It was a new idea. A bullet. That swallows its own scream. Moscow, late 1970s. The Cold War wasn't just fought with tanks and missiles. It was fought in the shadows, with weapons you'd never see, and sounds you'd never hear. The KGB and GRU needed tools for operations where a single gunshot could mean mission failure. Western nations had suppressors, bulky cylinders screwed onto barrels. They worked, sort of, but they had problems. They wore out, required constant maintenance, added weight and bulk, and they were never truly silent. For Soviet military doctrine, this wasn't good enough. If the West used suppressors, the Soviet Union would do better. They would eliminate the suppressor entirely. They'd tried before. The MSP silent pistol of 1972. Unreliable, still too loud, a failure. Enter Igor Stechkin, already legendary for creating the Stechkin APS machine pistol. At a secret facility called Tiny Tokmash, he received an impossible challenge. Create a pistol that fires without an external signature. No suppressor, no sound, no flash. The laws of physics said it couldn't be done. Stechkin's team had to prove physics wrong. Now, before we understand the solution, you need to understand the problem. When a normal gun fires, here's what happens. Gunpowder explodes, creates enormous pressure. That pressure launches the bullet down the barrel at over 1,000 feet per second. But here's the issue. Those expanding gases don't just stay in the barrel. They follow the bullet out into open air. And when high-pressure gas suddenly expands into normal air, that's your gunshot. That's the bang. That's the problem. A pressure wave traveling at the speed of sound, announcing to everyone nearby, someone just fired a gun. Traditional suppressors try to slow down those gases. Baffles, chambers. Basically, a series of speed bumps for the explosion. It helps, but the gases still escape. The sound is reduced, never eliminated. Stechkin's team looked at this problem from every angle. Months became years. Late 1970s turned into early 1980s, hundreds of prototypes, thousands of test rounds, and then the breakthrough. What if the suppressor wasn't attached to the gun? What if it was built into the ammunition itself? What if every single bullet carried its own prison for the explosion? They called it the captive piston cartridge, and it was brilliant. The SP4 cartridge, 7.62 millimeters, looks almost ordinary, but inside, engineering genius. 4 main parts, a standard brass case. Gunpowder at the bottom, a bullet at the top, and in between, a piston. That's the key. Think of it like this. Imagine a glass bottle. At the bottom, you put an explosive. In the middle, a cork. At the top, a marble. When the explosive goes off, it pushes the cork. The cork pushes the marble. The marble shoots out the top. But here's the magic. The cork doesn't follow the marble. It gets wedged in the bottle's neck. Stuck. Sealed. All that explosive pressure, trapped inside the bottle. Can't escape. The marble flies free, but silently. That's exactly what happens in the SP4 cartridge. Now, here's the moment of firing. Step 1. The firing pin strikes the primer. Step 2. The powder ignites. Pressure builds instantly. Step 3. That pressure pushes the piston forward. The piston drives the bullet up and out. The bullet continues up the barrel, but the piston stops. It wedges into the case mouth and forms a seal. All those expanding gases hit that seal and stop. Trapped. Going nowhere. The bullet exits the barrel completely alone. No following gas cloud, no pressure wave, no flash, no bang. The result? Roughly around 120 to 130 decibels depending on conditions. Still loud by everyday standards. You'd hear it in a quiet room. But for a firearm, it was shockingly quiet. And remember, zero muzzle flash. In darkness, nearly invisible. The Soviets had done it. They'd broken the rules. In 1983, the PSS VUL entered service, immediately classified as a state secret. Only issued to the most elite, KGB, GRU, and special units. The West knew something existed, but they didn't know how it worked. That secret would remain buried for nearly a decade. Now here's where the story gets difficult to tell. The Soviet Union never publicized special operations. Missions were classified. After-action reports buried. Most PSS stories you'll hear, rumors, legends, unverifiable, but we can confirm a few things. October 2002, the Moscow theater crisis. Chechen terrorists seized the Dubrovka theater, over 900 hostages. For 3 days, the world watches. Then Russia's elite units stormed the building. In publicly available photographs from the operation, you can see it. A PSS pistol holstered on an operator's kit. Was it used? We don't know, but they brought it. 2 years later, Beslan, North Ossetia, a school siege. Over 1,000 hostages. Again, the PSS appears in operation imagery. Confirmed present. Usage unconfirmed. And then there's Afghanistan. The Soviet-Afghan War ran from 1979 to 1989. Spetsnaz operated extensively in the mountains. The PSS timeline matches? It existed from 1983 onward. It makes sense it could have been used for covert work, but we can't verify it. No photographs, no official records, no declassified proof. Allegedly used, probably used, but not confirmed. What we do know is this. The PSS remained in service 40 years, and counting. In 2011, they introduced an improved version, the PSS-2, VUL 2. If it was useless, it would have been retired decades ago. The fact that it survived tells us something worked. The question is, what exactly did it do? The PSS has become a legend. And like all legends, it's surrounded by myths. So let's separate the Hollywood fiction from the engineering facts. Myth number 1. It's completely silent. Wrong. Around 120 to 130 decibels depending on conditions. That's like a door slamming or a loud clap. In a quiet building, you'd hear it, just not from very far away. Compared to a normal pistol at 160 plus decibels, it's remarkably quiet. Myth number 2. This was the KGB's go-to assassination weapon. Here's the truth. There are no publicly confirmed assassinations attributed to the PSS. Stories? Yes. Claims? A few. Verified evidence? None. Could it have been used for targeted killings? Possibly. Can we prove it? No. Absence of evidence isn't proof it never happened, but it's also not confirmation. Myth number 3. It leaves no evidence. The perfect crime. Also wrong. Even silent, it still leaves forensic traces. The bullet has a ballistic signature. Wounds still show a 7.62 mm projectile. Spent cases remain in the pistol. Forensics still applies. And here's the detail that rarely gets mentioned. Every SP4 cartridge is a precision-engineered mechanical system. That piston has to fit perfectly. Too loose and gas escapes. Too tight and the bullet won't exit correctly. That makes it expensive and specialized. So even elite units, even with access to the PSS, often chose conventional suppressed pistols for many missions. Cheaper ammo, higher capacity, more flexible. The PSS wasn't a general-purpose tool, it was a scalpel. So why does it still exist? Russia introduced the PSS 2 decades later. Updated design, modern materials, improved ergonomics. And that tells you something. 40 years after the concept was born, they're still manufacturing the ammunition. Still issuing the pistol to select units. Why? Because for specific missions, nothing else does what it does. No external suppressor. No baffles to degrade. No added length. No muzzle flash. A weapon that carries its silence inside every round. So was the PSS successful? Engineering success? Absolutely. Practical success? Limited. Historical success? Undeniable. It's brilliant and niche. Revolutionary and specialized. Legendary and rarely seen. And somehow, that makes perfect sense. The PSS teaches us something about innovation, about the Cold War, about human ingenuity. Solving the impossible problem isn't always enough. The Cold War pushed both superpowers to create incredible things: spacecraft, submarines, technology that redefined what was possible, and yes, weapons that tried to outsmart physics. The Soviet Union created a pistol that could fire without a conventional gunshot. They poured resources into it. Brilliant minds worked for years, and then they discovered the world rarely needed such a thing. But here's the thing. Sometimes the impractical solution is still the right one to attempt. Sometimes you push the boundaries, not because it's immediately useful, but because it's possible. The captive piston cartridge is human ingenuity at its most audacious. Engineers looked at the laws of physics and said, "Not good enough." They taught a bullet to swallow its own scream. And even if history didn't demand it every day, the fact that they succeeded is remarkable. In the archives of Cold War innovation, the PSS deserves its place, not as the weapon that changed warfare, but as proof that with enough brilliance, you can make the impossible merely impractical.